So Chris, name a movie that features the character of Mr. Hand.
Well, that's easy. Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Duh.
Mr. Hand, will I pass this class? Gee, Mr. Spicoli, I don't know.
Wrong. The movie is Dark City.
Oh, right. The movie we just watched.
Oh, yeah.
Sleep now.
Don't spoil my day, I'm miles away. And after all, I'm only sleeping.
Today we're doing a second look on Dark City, a forgotten gem from the 90s, the late 90s.
A very forgotten gem. This movie, to me, it doesn't remind me of any other movie.
That reminds me of a lot of movies.
Well, but it was unique at the time.
It was, yeah.
And
Right.
then later, there are some movies that at least have certain...
Thematic parallels?
Yeah. An obvious one would be The Matrix.
Very clearly.
But the difference is The Matrix is about a manufactured world, an unreal world, whereas Dark City is clearly, it's real, but the beings have the ability to alter that reality.
Right. But this also exists in a period in the 90s. Reality is not real was a theme. Books like Fight Club and then the eventual film. And there was another film the same year as The Matrix, which is kind of another forgotten 90s film called The 13th Floor.
Oh, yeah.
Which is a remake of a German film called World on a Wire, which is The Matrix. We're all just like living in a computer simulation. There's not an alien threat in World on a Wire, but it's pretty much the same story. The only difference is that it's clearly like 1973 Berlin. They didn't try to like make it look like futuristic, but still.
It also reminds me a lot, there's a Doctor Who episode from the late 60s called The War Games, which is very similar plot. The Doctor and his companions land on what they think is World War I, but all these layers end up getting pulled back and they realize they're not on Earth in 1918. They're on some foreign planet. An alien species is abducting humans from various time zones from Earth.
The aliens intend to conquer the entire galaxy. But why choose the people of the Earth? They are the most suitable recruits for our armies. Man is the most vicious species of all.
Very similar idea.
So what about the movie Inception?
I can see Christopher Nolan taking like the world altering from this movie.
Which was a huge part of this movie. The visual effects.
Yeah. Reality alters
Constantly.
while people are asleep.
Yeah.
They're unconscious.
And it's like every day at like midnight, right?
It's not clear how regular it is, but
Yeah.
yes. The whole thing is an alien experiment.
I kind of felt like story-wise, this could have been a mythology that really took off.
And it didn't, yeah.
And but it could have.
It could have been, yeah.
Like if you look at the whole story, it could have been something this is like the first movie of 3. Or even a chapter where you could have had like 6 or 9 or whatever.
More than The Matrix, I think.
Yeah. I walk away from this movie, the second viewing I did, because this was my second viewing. I walked away thinking, wow, this could have been something bigger.
It could have been, yeah.
It cost what, probably under 30.
$27 million.
Yeah.
It basically made back its budget, its production budget. So, it was a flop. The studio, like, banished it to, like, January of 1998. Originally, it was supposed to be released in, like, the previous fall of 97.
Yeah.
Studio had no confidence in it. It was produced by New Line Cinema, which is odd. Studio of Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yep.
And eventually they became legitimized by Lord of the Rings.
Yep.
3 years after this.
Very much so.
But this is like the weird nether world in between those films.
So the director, Alex Proyas, who the heck is this guy?
Well, his film before this was the infamous The Crow from 1994.
Okay, The Crow.
Where Brandon Lee, son of Bruce Lee, was killed.
That was very famous. I do remember that, which is weird because I also think of that happening to Bog.
Bat's breath.
And it happened with Alec Baldwin in that recent film too.
No, that was a real bullet.
I thought it was a blank.
No, that was a real bullet.
How did a real bullet get put into that?
It should never have happened, but
That's
did.
fucked up.
Yeah. So after killing Brandon Lee, he decides to like make a masterpiece film.
Co-written with David S. Goyer. He writes a lot of like those DC movies. Some of the worst ones, actually.
And I know he did other movies later, like I, Robot.
Oh, hell no.
Terrible like version of the Isaac Asimov book.
It was pretty bad.
This movie kind of set him up, and then he just kind of failed in the 2000s for some
Yeah.
reason. I don't know what it was.
Kinda
He just
stalled.
became like a studio kind of hack, maybe. I don't know. This is his magnum opus.
I mean, he directed it, he wrote it, or co-wrote it, but I actually think it stands the test of time. Let's just talk about the very first thing you hear is Kiefer Sutherland's voice talking.
Is it?
First, there was darkness. Then came the strangers. They were a race as old as time itself. They had mastered the ultimate technology, the ability to alter physical reality.
That's not what I just saw.
A
Ridiculous
person talking
Exposition at the beginning? No,
by
that's
Kiefer Sutherland?
that's been completely excised.
Well, the movie I saw was about an hour and 35 minutes long.
Oh, the one I saw was an hour and 51 minutes.
Are you saying that you saw a different film?
Yes, I did.
What did you see?
I saw the director's cut.
I saw the non-director's cut.
Ah,
The version that I watched is not the director's cut. It starts with the narration by Kiefer Sutherland's character. Only in that version do you actually hear, he talks about who the strangers are. He talks about their mission.
Which
What?
kind of spoils the plot.
It totally does.
What's funny is like that didn't bother me in 1998, but now watching it after seeing the special edition or the director's cut where that's been taken out, I can really see like why you would take it out because
I don't need like to be spoon fed.
But Star Wars at least gave you, hang on.
Totally different.
Hang on. Star Wars gave you an opening scroll that said, here's where the hell you are, and here's the plot, here's what's happening, this is why you're here, now let's start the movie.
Could Star Wars have worked without that?
No.
Because at the beginning, you're in John Murdoch's point of view, as you should be.
Right.
And you, as the audience, just like he, are trying to figure out what is going on.
You mentioned John Murdoch, the character played by,
Rufus Sewell.
and the only thing I know this guy in is the miniseries John Adams.
It's so great in that.
Yeah,
he
he-
is the, to me, definitive Alexander Hamilton.
Ambassador Genet's visit has stirred a hornet's nest. The British government now consider us a belligerent nation for the very fact of having received him.
Sorry, Lin-Manuel Miranda fans.
Yeah.
He is Alexander Hamilton.
But can the actor of this movie rap?
Probably not.
He's a good actor. I've
Yeah.
heard that. I've read that. What's another movie or anything that I've heard that guy has been in besides?
I think it matters. His big googly eyes stand out in the darkness.
As long as you have his googly eyes, it's all that matters. Well, let's talk about the most well-known actors of the cast.
you mean Bruce Spence?
No more, Mr. Quick.
No, I mean William Hurt and Kiefer Sutherland.
Oh, right.
You are a fastidious man, driven, consumed by details. I would say your life is rather lonely.
For when I think of William Hurt, let's cover him first. I think of those early 80s movies.
Altered States,
The Big Chill.
Body Heat, which was Lawrence Kasdan's first film,
That's right.
Kathleen Turner's first movie too.
Children of a Lesser God, which I think he won Best Actor, or he won an Academy Award in the 80s, and I want to
Was
say
it
that
Kiss
movie.
of the Spider Woman?
All right, it was either that or Children of a Lesser
One of
God.
those two movies,
Yeah.
which I've never seen.
The winner is William Hurt.
I would like to call him out in the movie History of Violence.
How do you fuck that up? How do you fuck that up?
I love that movie. That is possibly a second look for a later viewing.
I agree. And he did a bunch of other stuff later. I think he was in some of the superhero movies.
Yeah, he was in his check cashing phase towards the end of his career. by playing comic book generals in the Marvel movies.
Sorry, you said something about superhero movies.
His role was like recently taken over by Harrison Ford.
Oh,
For what that's worth.
okay. Good news.
I'm not sure I know anymore.
For Kiefer Sutherland, I picture like two things for some reason when I think of him. I picture him walking out onto a beach or something and going, "Today's a good day to die."
What's that movie?
Flatliners.
Oh, God, I've never seen that.
And another one, of course, is He's a Vampire.
Lost Boys.
Lost Boys.
Yeah. Cheesy, but fun 80s classic, I would say.
And I was looking at his list. He has a super long list of movies. And I'm like, we can't go into all these.
He's also in Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me. Small role, but he's memorable. I think that's where he started like the sort of character actor phase of his career, was in that movie.
But he did a lot of movies like The Sentinel. Like he just, you know what I mean?
I've never heard of The Sentinel.
At least I think it's called The Sentinel. But a lot of forgettable movies.
Yes. Young Guns, wasn't he in those?
Yes, he was in Young Guns. Was there a Young Guns 2?
Yep.
Okay. Well, let's see that.
That could be one for the junkyard.
I'm excited.
Now you must listen to me. You have lost your memory. There was an experiment. Something went wrong. Your memory was erased. Do you understand me?
No, I don't understand. What the hell is going on here?
He's the scientist.
I have my criticisms about Kiefer's role in this film, but here's what I would say. He is clearly...
He's committed.
In my rewatch, I kind of felt like, you know what? Do we really need to hear Kiefer Sutherland go, I don't know?
Absurd, I know. But what other explanation is there?
I mean,
let's get into that.
Let's get into the annoying...
I don't know why Kiefer Sutherland does that. We're not giving any reason why he talks this way.
I think it must have been his choice, and the director just went, okay.
Sure. All right.
Talk like that. Yeah, I mean, I like the idea that maybe he's like, just, look, I don't want to do this straight. Like, can I do something wacky? How about I breathe funny?
Maybe he's doing an impression of Torgo from Manos Hands of Fate.
I am Torgo. I take care of the place while the master is away.
And he thought that was funny, and Alex Proyas was like, yeah, that's great. Do a Torgo impression.
It's just distracting. Another character is Jennifer Connelly. I really only know that actress from...
Labyrinth.
I was also going to say Beautiful Mind.
Oh, Beautiful Mind, yeah.
I don't know if Jennifer Connelly is miscast or the part was just really underwritten, but she's boring. She's like Sean Young in Blade Runner, just completely one note.
You were saying, though, in the director's cut, which I need to see, that she's actually a little bit more present.
She has more scenes with William Hurt's character, but a completely underwritten character, and she just has no idea what to do with it.
Also, the peripheral characters. And I realize they're not like the main characters, but they stick out. They just shine through the movie. One of them, I swear to God, was in the movie The Road Warrior.
Bruce Spence. Yeah.
He's like one of the taller, like, strangers. But he reminds me of the guy from the Ricky Gervais shows.
Stephen Merchant.
Don't have a go at the eyes, because that is a stigmatism.
You know he is also in?
What?
Revenge of the Sith.
Who is he in that?
Yes, here. We are being held hostage.
I do remember him. Holy crap.
Should we not know, Mr. Hand?
Richard O'Brien.
What was he in?
Doing the time war, drinking those moments when the blackness would hit me and the void would be calling.
He's got such a great voice. Like, I could listen to Richard O'Brien, like, read the phone book.
Oh yes, Mr. Book. I have John Murdoch in mind.
Ian Richardson.
Which character in this movie?
Ian Richardson played Mr. Book.
Where have I seen that guy?
The original BBC's House of Cards.
You might think that, Matty. I couldn't possibly comment.
So fucking great in that.
Has the little boy been in anything? Creepy as shit. Creepy as shit.
He is good, yeah.
Wow.
Kill him. Yeah.
I say we kill him. What did he actually say?
Kill him.
Yeah. Totally creepy. By the way, is there anything creepier than little kids that say kill?
No.
No.
That's what makes that trope successful.
Don't you think it's about time you started giving me some answers?
Yes. Yes, of course. Would you please sit down?
I have the plot right here because I had to actually take everything I got from the movie and because it was ambiguous.
It's a pretty basic plot. I mean,
It is.
The story's complex, but the plot itself is very basic.
Right. Like, what are the strangers after?
The whole thing is a big laboratory maze. And the city is basically a giant lab rat, experiment.
And it mentions also in that intro, the narration says that they sought out kind of this last attempt of theirs.
Their species is dying. They had to leave their planet, and they came across these humans.
And they actually say in that narration, they found this one blue planet on the corner of the galaxy. And so
it's not necessarily Earth,
but
it's Earth. It could be Earth-like.
They don't say Earth, but you at least get the assumption here that maybe they're on this planet.
Yes.
And from there, it talks about their whole point of existence is this need that they have, or this.
They're trying to learn about human free will.
Weren't you looking for the human soul? That's the purpose of your little zoo, isn't it? That's why you keep changing people and things around every night.
They've got this force-like ability to manipulate matter at the molecular level and change it.
They can mess with people's memories and who they are, how they exist.
The memories is outside of their power.
That's true. Yeah,
that's what they need Dr. Schreiber for.
Which we'll get to. And so really, it's about their ability to change and manipulate matter.
They can manipulate matter.
Buildings can be changed. The size of a room can be changed. Everything in the room can be different looking.
They have these giant machines underneath the city that actually do it, but they control that with their minds.
Yes. And by the way, we should just mention now, they're dead bodies.
Yes. They are actually squiddy, alien parasites who have actually taken over human corpses.
Yeah.
So there's a mixture of zombies and vampires in an interesting way.
Yeah. It's very interesting to me that there's some sort of creature in their brains, essentially, and that they're just dead bodies. And by the way, it reminds me of Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Conspiracy.
It's a shitty first season, but at least it's not a bad episode
It's a good episode.
of the shitty first season, where there's...
these symbiotes are basically
these
controlling humans.
But they're malevolent.
Yeah.
And they look like little tiny...
they look like little scorpions
crabs
or something.
Let the tuning commence.
Tuning is what they call that
It's-
manipulation of matter. And
Yeah. It's very force-like.
But it also includes the doctor's help, the scientist, played by Kiefer Sutherland, his ability to help implant different memories.
He is developing the altered memories that they inject all the humans with at various points in their experiments.
He's not one of them, and he is human. He's a humanoid.
He's human, yeah.
But he's got scientific skills that they want to use.
Yeah.
So they keep him around.
Yeah, he's in league with them for most of the film. So the movie starts during one of these tuning times.
Yeah.
John Murdoch, his altered memory doesn't work.
Right.
And he wakes up during the tuning.
Yeah. His persona is supposed to be this murderer.
Yeah, that's the new memory, identity, false memory and identity that they've crafted for him.
He's a serial killer.
He's the serial killer of sex workers.
And there's like a dead body in the hotel room. But instead of just being this serial killer, there's something special about John Murdoch.
He woke up during the tuning, so he has no memory of who he actually is.
Yeah.
He doesn't know that he's John Murdoch from a previous tuning experiment.
Right.
So the audience is thrown into this mass confusion with him.
Right.
Which I think works best for an opening without unnecessary exposition narration.
Yes. Yeah. And then there's really a parallel plot at this point. You're following two things. You're following the murder mystery where you're meeting other characters like William Hurt.
Yes.
You're meeting his wife, John Murdoch's wife, played by
Jennifer
Connelly. There's a realization that there's something special about John Murdoch, and the strangers have an interest.
A few of the strangers, led by Mr. Hand, confront him. He realizes he can actually use the tuning power at a certain point.
He can tune!
There's an episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer with these creatures
that look like them,
that look and float and act like them, and they're bald.
The floating is really creepy.
I think that episode of Buffy ripped stuff from the strangers.
Huh, interesting. Basically, from there, it's all about his powers are evolving even more because they're trying to capture him. And he also starts bonding with William Hurt's detective character, trying to convince him.
William Hurt is following him because he's the police detective that's investigating these sex worker murders.
And I love the scene where John Murdoch is like trying to get him to understand this manipulative or fake existence they all have. He's like, do you remember where Shell Beach keeps coming up?
Shell Beach is like this random memory that all humans seem to have.
They all seem to have it.
But it doesn't exist anywhere in the city. People can remember it, but they have no knowledge of where it is or how to get there.
So John Murdoch's like asking the detective, can you remember how to get there? Do you remember exactly the path or like how you got there when you were there? And also, do you remember the last time it was daylight?
Yeah, which is a very important plot point. Why it's always dark. Why this is Dark City.
Every time the strangers have been tuning, they have chosen night.
They have an aversion to sunlight and water.
You know how uncomfortable we find all this moisture.
Just like the Gremlins.
Yes.
Except Gremlins, they definitely have a fear of sunlight. Could die from it. Water, I think, just multiplies them. And they can't eat after midnight. But I digress.
That enhances like the vampire-esque sort of nature about them.
Maybe these dead bodies controlled by the weird symbionts, maybe they can't eat after midnight either, for all we know.
Yeah, I don't think they can.
Which is why it's always...
Maybe they don't eat at all.
Yeah.
What happens if they eat?
Good question.
He is becoming like us.
So we must become like him.
The brunt of like the first two acts is covered with everything we just said, outside of some...
Murdoch's trying to figure out what's going on. Strangers are trying to catch him.
He's getting more power. He's evolving.
He's evolving. Yeah. And William Hurt, the detective, is trying to apprehend him at the same time.
Yeah. Kiefer Sutherland's character, the doctor, is actually... You can tell that he wants to change things.
Eventually, you discover that, yes.
Yeah. Doesn't he give John Murdoch information about
He tells him about the tuning and the strangers at a certain point, yes.
But not his plan.
The doctor hangs out at a spa, knowing that the strangers have an aversion to water.
Yeah.
So that's sort of like a little haven for him when he goes to the spa.
Because that's right. They hate water.
They hate water.
There is a big reveal around this time where, in the second act, I guess into the third, where you realize you are not on a planet. You are actually on a floating...
spaceship or space station.
Or just a city laboratory.
Well, I think it's a space station because we do see that there is like some sort of air shield
superstructure
around it.
Of...
Yeah, William Hurt gets like sucked out of it.
But then what was the point in the version I saw? What is the point of the narration saying they sought out like a blue planet in the corner of the galaxy? We're missing a key thing. When did they go from that planet to just a city floating in space?
They could just be like the aliens that are part of like rumors and conspiracies here that are abducting humans.
They abducted people.
Maybe they've been abducting humans from this planet or an Earth-like planet for like decades.
So what they did is they found more people to manipulate. They took them away. Okay.
And the city has this sort of like constructive collective memory from like the 1920s through like the 1950s.
Yeah.
One of the key plot points of the second act is Mr. Hand decides the best way to find Murdoch is to imprint one of his memories into his own brain.
Right.
Which happens to be the sex worker serial killer.
Leave me alone with her. There's work to be done.
And none of the strangers have ever imprinted these false human memories into their own. This is what makes Mr. Hand the most interesting character in the movie because he actually adapts and changes. He becomes a serial killer.
As if he wasn't already creepy.
As if he wasn't creepy enough.
He's now a serial killer.
I understand you now, Mr. Murdoch. I remember that which you do not. What you've been missing. The ocean, yes.
And he like sort of falls in love with Murdoch's wife. He ends up having this like creepy infatuation with her. He becomes a really fascinating character.
But imagine a life alien to yours, in which your memories were not your own, but those shared by every other of your kind. Imagine the torment of such an existence. No experiences to call your own.
They capture John Murdoch.
Yeah.
They bring him to their...
Murdoch's able to eventually convince Bumstead, the detective played by William Hurt, that reality's not real.
And this is where they want to do their procedure.
They want to put this final imprint into him to somehow harness his power and use it amongst themselves.
But also their ultimate goal might be accomplished here, which is understanding the nature of the human soul. But Kiefer Sutherland's character, Dr. Schreiber, has plans of his own.
He's been creating his own memory imprint for Murdoch, where he has inserted himself into Murdoch's entire life.
Right.
So he secretly actually injects that into Murdoch's memory, and within an instant, a whole lifetime of understanding the tuning power, he learns it in an instant. So as soon as he injects it, within like seconds, he has a complete understanding of how to wield the power.
Right.
It's a really good twist.
And then this is the big climactic ending where he's taken over. He is immediately starting to use this power.
Well, there's a big boss fight with Mr. Book. Yeah, he must be like the most powerful of the strangers.
Because he's old. His dead body's the oldest.
Yeah, right.
But after that, you really see the power that he has, John Murdoch has, and he really changes everything.
Before, all the strangers had to work collectively like a hive mind to manipulate the machines to do all the tuning. But Murdoch can now do it all by himself.
And he's changing things for the better. And he does one big final change.
Yes, he moves the space station towards the sun. You see that there's a yellow sun that they've been orbiting.
And at this point, the movie is officially changed to the title of The Light City.
Light City. Goes from dark to Light City.
Light City. And so basically...
So all the strangers are killed.
Yeah, they hate sunlight. Just like
vampires.
Gizmo and all his friends.
So that would be an interesting sequel, is like, what if Murdoch becomes like an all-powerful dictator? What if he becomes this like despotic ruler over the human citizens of Dark City? And that could be a really interesting sequel.
Well, and we were talking about this whole mythology that could have maybe been in Alex Proyas' head, the director and writer. Maybe he had ideas for expanding this, or this was part one and there'd be this really interesting part two and part three. However, it didn't do financially very well.
But it got great critical praise. This was Roger Ebert's best film of 1998.
I really like it. I mean, I do think it's unique. I think it's really interesting. I would say it's not a horror, but there are creepy aspects to it for sure. I mean, there's the serial killer vibe, and then there's the evil-looking strangers.
Yeah, the strangers are definitely horror-esque.
Who talk like this.
Perfectly casting Richard O'Brien as Mr. Hand is just a stroke of casting genius, for sure.
It is sort of like noir meets sci-fi.
Yeah.
Which I think is the unique appeal of the movie.
Yeah. Which Blade Runner had already done,
Oh, God. But interesting comparison.
Small world.
Visually, it's got German expressionism. It reminds me a lot of like Fritz Lang's Metropolis and M. It's got elements of that.
Mm-hmm.
Edward Hopper paintings. So yeah, lots of influences.
Well, we mentioned all these movies. We talked about the Neo vibe, or just like Luke Skywalker, the Force.
Yeah, this follows the hero's journey.
Yeah.
From Campbell.
Well, but it's evolution of abilities, power.
Right.
The Jedi Knight or Neo becoming the one. But outside of those, I mean, yes, there are some comparisons I could make, but I do think the movie has some originality to it.
It does. It's definitely worth watching.
Yeah.
For sure. Especially since I think it's been forgotten.
Yes.
In these last 30, 35
well,
years.
It didn't make a lot of money either.
The studio clearly probably had no confidence in it, so they buried it. Managed it to January, where it flopped. And then it was just completely eclipsed a year later by The Matrix.
But then I would also say that, how some movies can kind of enter the cult mode. This movie didn't do that. I never got a sense.
I think it has a cult following.
Does it?
I think so.
All right.
Not a big one, but it does. I think it's definitely out there.
All right. Well, I recommend this movie. It sounds to me like you recommend it also.
I definitely do. It's not a perfect film, but it's definitely one of the more memorable science fiction films of like the last 30, 35 years.
I give it a solid B, maybe even a B+.
Yeah, B+ I think is as high as I'll go.
But let us know what you think. Maybe you have observations we didn't cover. Maybe you disagree or agree. Let us know.
Yeah, maybe you think it's a forgotten cult classic. Let us know how it compares favorably or unfavorably to The Matrix and other films.
And that concludes this episode of A Second Look, talking about the movie Dark City, 1998, by director Alex Proyas.
And until then, sleep.
Sleep.
Oh, wait. I think you have to have actual tuning powers for that to work.
And we don't have dead bodies.
Or alien symbionts living in our brains.
In our brains. Shit.
Shazbot.
Live and learn.